Hello, Sarah here from Free Your English. Welcome to another WOW Words on Wednesday. Today's words are number 1, pragmatist, and number 2, blueprint. As always, these words come from the vocabulary section of this month's material within my membership, which is the English Speaking Society. This is a low-cost, high-value membership that offers you a complete package to help you work on your reading, writing, listening, and of course, speaking skills. I invite you to check out the membership and see whether it would be a fit for you to really drive your English success forward by looking at the link that will appear somewhere within underneath this video. Without further ado, let's jump in and let's look at those 2 words for today. Okay, here I am within the English Speaking Society membership. If you haven't had a little sneak peek in here before, there's loads of good stuff in here. There's a live session each month. There's some planners and journals that can help you organize your learning. There's, of course, all of the speaking prompt library stuff each month. And then there's a bonus of a fantastic course that takes you through 12 weeks of development of your mindset, motivation, and mastery of English, and helps you, as the title says, speak English with confidence. So that's a great bonus in there. Anyway, we're going to jump in and we're going to look in the April speaking prompt section, which is not all about speaking. There's actually so much more than just speaking prompts. There is a lot of great vocabulary development material, including some games and some really good reading and writing material as well. But anyway, we are going to dive into this section here. And I'm just going to scroll to make it, or zoom in rather, to make it bigger at the start, because I always forget to do that. And then I'm going to scroll down to find the words that we're looking at for today. Okay, so in the example sentence that comes from the video of the month within the membership, it actually uses it in this form, pragmatic. So I'll read the example sentence and then we'll talk about what a pragmatist is. Okay, so here's this first example sentence. Some people feel we should not be putting a price on nature. All of us have that idealist part in us, but we also have to be entirely pragmatic. So if you remember the last WOW that we did last week, we looked at idealist, and that means a person who's guided by high principles. And so pragmatic is kind of the opposite of that. So someone who is pragmatic or is a pragmatist is kind of on the opposite spectrum to someone who's an idealist. Here's another example. The pragmatist in her knew that the plan to leave the keys in the car would never work, as people can't always be trusted. It would be a pretty rare place if you could leave the keys in the car. So I think, the pragmatist is someone who is practical and focused on achieving specific goals or results. So leaving the keys in the car is not very pragmatic. It's not very realistic. You know, the reality of life is if you leave the keys in your car, in most places, there won't be a car when you come back for it. So the pragmatist in her, the realistic person, the person who looks at the practical aspects of life, knew that that wasn't a good idea. So someone who's a pragmatist is basically the opposite of someone who's an idealist, somebody who's very practical. Okay, I'm going to go through the meaning of blueprint, and then we'll look at some synonyms and antonyms for both. So here is the example sentence for blueprint. We need a blueprint for nature that says these parts of the globe are the most important for nature, and we must protect them. Okay, another example sentence. The blueprint for the building was carefully drawn up to ensure that it met all safety requirements. Okay, what do you think blueprint means? It is a detailed plan or design for something, often used as a guide for construction or implementation. So it is basically another word for a plan. You have a complete detailed plan. So if you're talking about an architectural blueprint, that would be every detail needed to plan a building. But we can also talk about it in terms of, a plan for something complicated, a blueprint for protecting nature, for example. Okay, I want to look at some of the wider connections for these words. Okay, here I am inside the vocabulary journal for April, and I'm just going to scroll down to the words that we're looking at for today. This vocabulary journal is a really active journal. It's for you to actively use to fill out and to think about the connections between words, because that helps you maintain the word in your active vocabulary. So a synonym of pragmatist is realist, someone who's really practical. An antonym, someone who's impractical or an idealist. We often use this in this form, pragmatic. So you probably use pragmatic more than you'll use pragmatist. And if we look at the form pragmatic, which describes, someone or even, a way of working, we can talk about a pragmatic approach, solution, or thinking. So a pragmatic approach to looking after your car is to never leave the keys in the ignition. A pragmatic solution to conflict within a marriage might be to sit down and listen carefully to each other. So it's a realistic, practical way of working. So pragmatic approach, solution, or thinking. Okay, let's look at all the connections for the other word, blueprint. So a word that means the same is an outline or a plan, or a structure. A word or phrase that means the opposite is an ad hoc approach. That's a great phrase. An ad hoc approach means there is no planning, there's no structure. It's very in the moment, improvised, kind of decisions taken spontaneously. You cannot take an ad hoc approach to planning a wedding. A wedding, for example, needs a lot of structure, forethought, and detailed planning. And so it would be very difficult to have an ad hoc approach to planning a wedding. Although, having said that, my wedding was a little bit ad hoc. It was kind of very not structured, not planned out perfectly, which was absolutely beautiful and fine. So maybe I'm contradicting myself. But for most weddings are a good example of something that needs a lot of planning. So it would need a blueprint, a detailed scheme and structure of what needs to be done and when. The word blueprint is exactly the same as plan, but it has this strong connection to design and architecture. So we would often talk about a blueprint design for a house or a blueprint plan for a house architecturally. And then the other very common usage is a blueprint for success. Okay, here's an example. My blueprint for success that I believe in is to ask my clients to practice using the words that they learn immediately. So I am now inviting you to actually do that. I would love it if you would, in the comment section, practice using the words that we have looked at today in a sentence, and I'll be able to give you feedback if you do. I also really encourage you to try using them within your speaking practice so that you are saying the words out loud, practice speaking sentences and thoughts and opinions using those words and really getting them into your active vocabulary. Okay, thanks for joining me for this wow for today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.